I hope everybody is safe and healthy as you're doing your part to flatten the pandemic curve. Given that you're at home, I'm sure that you guys have heard the national news about the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. This is something that happened back on February 23 of this year in Brunswick, Georgia. Everybody has a ton of questions about that, and we're going to answer those questions for you in an interview with Manny Arora, who's a criminal defense attorney in Atlanta, Georgia. He's also a former JAG officer and a prosecutor at the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. Please tune in so you can get your questions answered. And when you're done, make sure you circle back to stoprecidivism.org so you can get updates on this matter to help us bring justice to the Arbery family. Thank you.
All you need is probable cause to make an arrest, and the probable cause is a very low standard. The sheriff very easily could look at the video or maybe talk to the witnesses, including the gentleman that actually took the video, and say there's enough probable cause here to do it. Doesn't mean they're going to get a conviction, but there's more than enough to arrest somebody. Why? Because the gentleman had the shotgun, initiated the interaction, regardless of how the victim reacted. You initiated it, and then you shot at him 3 different times, and you were in the car. You could have driven away, you could have avoided the whole incident, you could have called the police, waited for the police. None of that was done. And you basically say that, hey, I think this guy might have been burglarizing houses in the neighborhood. Well, this gentleman lived in the neighborhood, was jogging in the neighborhood in the middle of the day. You can't just go up to him with a shotgun, essentially assault him, not expect that person to react, which would be normal, and then shoot him and claim self-defense. It wouldn't seem to work, and in all the trials I've done in my almost 30 years, at least in federal court or any metro city I've ever been to, you'd be laughed out of court. Based on the evidence that we've seen, there should be more than enough probable cause to get an arrest warrant. The question is going to be, is it murder in that the person with the gun shot multiple times at an unarmed individual, or is it voluntary manslaughter in that there was a conflict and they escalated it? Instead of fisticuffs, we brought the shotgun into this party and started shooting. There's more than enough probable cause out there, and then it's going to be up for a grand jury to see if the case should be indicted, and eventually if a jury should convict these people beyond a reasonable doubt. The local police force has jurisdiction in this case. They can call the GBI if they need some assistance, which has been done in this case. They could even call the FBI to help them if they wanted to. Then the different agencies would decide who's going to take point on this. So everybody has jurisdiction together. Who's number 1, number 2, number 3, that's something they work out amongst themselves. A citizen's arrest is a very rare thing. Generally, you as the person have to see the crime take place and then say, hey, stop, you've committed a crime, and you're calling the police waiting for them to happen. I have never seen a case where you think somebody may have been involved in a burglary on some other day at some other time, and I come running up on them with shotguns blazing, saying stop, stop, stop. I mean, that just doesn't seem to qualify. If anything, it seems like you're assaulting a jogger running on the road that lives in the community. The situation should be this. If I'm just jogging and some car goes whizzing by me, and then they stop in the middle of the road and come out, and then they're armed, there's no really place I can run. All I can do is now decide I'm going to be fighting for my life because I don't know what these people are doing. Because the people in the truck with the weapons instigated this whole thing, they can't then say this unarmed guy was threatening towards us. You can hear audio on this recording. All you hear are the shots, nobody's saying anything. It wasn't that far away. If somebody would have been screaming, get away, don't do this, something, then maybe I could understand the allegations that have been made that this may be self-defense, but just purely from the video, there's just no reasonable way to say that. There's no reasonable way to say that I'm defending myself while I'm pointing a gun at you, saying I'm scared of you as an unarmed person in a pair of shorts and running shoes. Really is a misnomer in the state of Georgia. Every felony case has to be taken to a grand jury. Right now, there are no grand juries because of the COVID threat, so we don't know when a grand jury is going to look at this. And generally speaking, a grand jury could indict a ham sandwich, as they say, as long as the DA presents the evidence. Unless there's something dramatic or the DA does a wink and a nod, grand juries typically indict anything and everything. Well, what you first have to do as the district attorney when you go in there is you can question the grand jurors to make sure they can be fair and impartial or what they've heard. We're not required to turn off the TVs, cover our ears, cover our eyes, and say I haven't heard anything about anything. If that was the case, there's nowhere in the country Bill Cosby could have gotten a trial, or any high-profile O.J. Simpson type case could have gotten it. You have to just establish, as the prosecutor, being held to a higher standard, is the grand jury going to be fair, in the process? And if the answer is yes, then we have to trust the DA is doing it correctly, because in our state, we don't record any of the grand jury proceedings. It's all secret, and it's all essentially off the record because there's no transcript of any of it. It's never out of the sheriff's hands. They can always keep investigating, but when they say that this is getting presented to a grand jury, implies that the investigation is essentially over. And at this point, we don't even know the name of the person that shot the video as to what he or she may have seen. We don't know what neighbors they talked to. We don't even know if there were any burglaries in this area that the shooters have contended to, or what the description was if there was a burglary. Just saying an average size black male isn't going to get it done in today's world. I mean, this isn't the 1950s anymore, and we should be held to a higher standard, and the sheriff should have evidence one way or the other, and that should be transparent. We don't know all the facts in this case. We've got the video and common sense, and we've sort of come to a conclusion. The problem I have in what the district attorneys, the two of them that have recused, have done is they knew they had recusal problems before this whole thing started. The fact that they go out publicly and poison the well by saying, we find this is self-defense, but now I'm going to recuse myself after I put this inflammatory statement out there. That's not how things are supposed to work. The DA is supposed to be above reproach. Their word matters. And so the first DA goes public and says, oh, there's nothing to see here. Oh, by the way, I have a conflict. Goes to DA number 2. He says he looks at it, nothing to see here. Oh, by the way, I have a conflict because my son works with the Brunswick Police Department. That's very problematic, and it really poisons the well of the jurors that are out there to try to get a fair and impartial thing, because they're going to argue that 2 different DAs said I didn't do anything wrong, and it really puts a burden on the case as far as that goes. So I'm hoping the GBI maybe will take the lead in this thing and come to some facts. At a minimum, we should know, were there any burglaries taking place in that neighborhood, and what was the description of the person? If you know about the video, you know who took the video, and it's just getting out now. So the police should have interviewed this person, should have a statement, and should know exactly what took place. And the reason it's important is on the video, there's some scenes where the camera goes off to the right and you can't really see what's going on, and those could be very important details. And obviously the man taking the video has to have been interviewed, and there should be some important details there. Well, the police would do an investigation. Nobody would say anything publicly to taint, this case one way or another. And then the sheriff, in conjunction with the DA, say, hey, we've looked at everything. These are the things we can release publicly. These are the things we keep as investigative processes. And this is our conclusion. Versus, well, this guy didn't do anything wrong, but I'm recusing myself. Next guy, well, he didn't do anything wrong, but I'm going to recuse myself. How about looking at it independently and just making a decision and then telling us why you made that decision? That's what we pay you for.